This is a homage beat.
Greetings, my name is OMARI FENNELL, second vice bossless of Psi Lota Chapter here in Dover, Delaware, home of the capital city Q's. And we want to welcome you this evening to an episode of Q's on the Move. Tonight's episode will focus on a real increasingly important topic, and that is estate planning. And what does that mean to me? What does that mean to us as a community? So we're going to go into estate planning. Specifically, we're going to go and delve into insurance. We're going to delve into savings, investments, and talk about many aspects of estate planning. Because we know with estate planning, there's so many different areas that make this up. That we won't be able to cover everything in one session tonight, but we want to be able to, at the end, inform you, educate you, and give you the information that you need to be able to make the right decisions for you and your family. So without that being said, I will go ahead and pass it to my first vice bossless, Brother Temple Jefferson, to give you a little bit of information and background about Psi Lota Chapter and what we do.
Greetings and felicitations. My name is Temple Jefferson, first vice bossless of the Psi Lota Chapter of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. We have just celebrated 75 years of servicing our community, our state, our country, and the world. Psi Lota Chapter has been recognized by our district and by our international headquarters on several occasions for our work in the community, and we look forward to continuing to service those areas.
My name is Dante Jones, Psi Lota Spring 17. Our goal is to inform, connect, engage, and enhance the knowledge of the community in various topics that we'll cover today. Today we have two brothers from the Psi Lota Chapter. They are professional in the area of estate planning and investments. There will be a lot of information geared towards helping you with your financial needs in the future. Right now we're going through a time with COVID, and we have a lot of different issues that we're facing. So be very attentive to the information that's given to you. Thank you.
So according to a report from MSNBC on the importance of estate planning for Black Americans, there has been an uptick in estate planning since the start of the pandemic. However, Black Americans are less likely to have their estate planning documents in order compared to other racial and ethnic groups. Therefore, it is important to inform, engage, and to equip our communities with key information for them to thrive and ensure the financial security of future generations. So let's get started. So first, I want to introduce to you our two guest panelists today. Brother John Anderson and Brother Kirk Brooks. Both of these brothers are two individuals who are in the financial advising field, and they help folks in their community with information, education, to inform them, to give them the information that they need in order to make informed decisions about their financial stability. Let's get right into the conversation. So Brother Anderson, I'll start with you first. Could you tell me why you decided to get into the field and what really led you to the field and why you feel it was important to get into it?
Being retired military, I fought the war against crime over there in the Vietnam. So when I came back home, there was another war going on against illiteracy. So I got into the financial field because I thought that was the best way to help families in the financial field to reach their goals and dreams.
Personally, what led me into the field of finance was being in college. I received the advice from some older students to kind of put off the finance courses, the accounting courses, as late as I could. And when I got into them, I really just kind of, it clicked for me. So I realized that, you know, as a 19-year-old, I'm like, all right, well, working with money, there's got to be money in that. But that's vastly different from my point of view when I was 22 and 23. And a brother by the name of Chris Webb actually helped to guide my career path towards the advisory side, because I realized that a lot of information that I had and a lot of things that I was still learning, a lot of people in our community meaning, you know, African Americans, we're not privy to. And that's what led me to get into this space and be kind of a familiar face for Black and brown families in a unfamiliar space.
All right. So my next question for both of you, can you both discuss and kind of talk a little bit about the generational issues with respect to estate planning with the Black community and communities of color?
I think the generation issues on people of color, first of all, we don't think we need an estate planning. Second of all, we actually don't understand what estate planning is. We think we don't have enough money, we don't think about it at all, and we really need it. There's a lot of things that is included in estate planning, and that includes your wills, your power of attorney, and different things as far as who's going to take care of your kids if something happened to you, what's going to happen if you are disabled. So there's a lot of things that has happened to estate planning, and we don't understand all that. So I guess this evening is to educate you on basically what we need to do to start our estate planning.
I agree with what Brother Anderson said 100%. There are misconceptions in our community about what estate planning is, how important it is, whether we need it. There's the general lack of knowledge, because when you look at what estate planning was or was able to be for generations before us, they didn't really know any better to bring it down from, I guess my grandfather's generation to then my father, then to me. There would have been no point of reference. So I think that those are some of the generational issues involved with estate planning.
All right, so thank you. So my next question, for the past 2 years, almost going on 3 years, we've been dealing with the COVID-19, and now we're also dealing with this Omicron variant as well. Could you tell me and discuss a little bit about how that has impacted estate planning and investments in life insurance and savings? Could you go into that as well?
What's going on in the world right now has affected estate planning and insurance because we're not doing it in person. We have to do things on Zoom electronically, and that stops that in-person aspect. So once this COVID is over, hopefully we can get back to the person, and that way we can sit down and talk to our family and friends and actually face-to-face without having to go through Facebook, Zoom, and all that kind of technology.
The COVID-19 pandemic has actually created more of a sense of urgency for people. In the past, I've experienced people, who come in and they'll meet with us and, they'll give us I'm not ready to make a move yet, or I need to discuss it with my husband or wife a little bit further before we really make a decision. I think that people losing loved ones due to COVID and, just for various other reasons, I think that the amount of lives lost has kind of given people that idea that this is something that needs to, that is important, that needs to be handled. So I think that sense of urgency has probably been the cause of an uptick in estate planning and I guess people investing. I'd say with that, it's, they see that people are riding trends with the investing. Like we just came down off of, an all-time high in the market. And now people are panicking because it's low, but really everything's just on sale.
Brothers, with the uptick in individuals coming to seek for financial advice, are you seeing a specific demographic of clients that come to you, whether it be male, female, Black or white?
I find that as far as investings, I find that most of my clients are white, female, if it's going to be somebody of color. I find that a lot of the men of color pride basically gets in the way. So sometimes we want to think that we know it. We don't want somebody else to come tell us what to do or how to invest. So we find that pride gets in the way and have a hard time when it comes to talking to men about investing. They're thinking about savings. We're always taught about savings, So if my parents, my grandparents always said, save your money in the bank, it was kind of hard to get them to stop saving and start investing. So that's a mindset that we have to end up changing. It's a hard job to do, but I feel as if I'll keep on doing this until it's done.
The majority is going to be white women because they, number one, I mean, just by the numbers, they have the assets to come in and seek that kind of advice, especially at a bigger firm where you're talking to advisors that have minimums of 100,000, 500,000, what have you. They're typically going to have that level of assets ready, of investable assets available. They're more likely to drag their spouse into the office and ask questions. And if they aren't, they are the ones themselves to most likely to ask the question or admit that they need help. Brother Anderson is spot on in his analysis about men. He said men of color, but men in general, white men too, they have an issue. I don't know if it's a control issue or pride issue with not being an expert and feeling like they can do it on their own or do better than what we in the profession can do for them.
At what age should you start seeking life insurance and start investing? I know that as a new teacher, we wasn't told certain things. So 22 years ago, when I started teaching, so at what age should you start investing and start seeking life insurance for you and your family?
I think I'll start with life insurance first. Life insurance is called income protection. If somebody's not dependent on your income, you really don't need a lot of life insurance. So if you're a married couple depending on both of the incomes, then you need life insurance. Life insurance is figured out by how much should I get? Usually 8 to 10 times my income. That's what I should have. So you figure 8 to 10 times your income so that if somebody passes away, usually the husband usually goes first as far as passed away. So if he's making like $40,000 a year, you should have at least $400,000 of life insurance. So therefore, if somebody passes away, you take that $400,000, put it into an income and growth fund, and you get that $40,000 that you're missing. That's how life insurance should be. The life insurance that can give you that great amount is usually term, because you can't get the whole life of verbal life. You can't get that much, or you'll be spending too much money. And as far as investing, we should start investing as soon as possible. We have some people out here getting their kids Roth IRAs so that when they get ready to go to college, they have that investing. So investing is very important. Time is very important, because the more periods you have, the more doubling periods you have, the better off you'll go. What I mean about that, if you understand the rule 72, which means you take the interest rate you're getting, divide it into 72, and that's how long it takes your money to double. So you want to start early as you can. 18, I suggest, because if you do 18, start investing, then stop. You can go ahead on with your life, and you have millions of dollars when you get ready to retire. We don't believe that, but it's possible.
When I was 22, I was diagnosed with cancer, and I ended up going into remission, and that is a barrier, remains to be a barrier for seeking independent life insurance. So I made sure that whatever life insurance my job was offering, where I would not have to test or provide medical history, I always opted in. And every company I worked for where life insurance was an option, always opted in. Because even if you have independent life insurance, it's additional on top, and you usually don't have to pay very much for it. I started investing same time. I started my career at Morgan Stanley, and I realized that right then and there, I have all the tools available to me. Why not start investing myself? Why not follow some of this advice that people are paying me good money to give them myself? So the situation is a little bit different being in the field, but I would encourage, like Brother Anderson said, people to get especially our people, to get into investing early, as early as possible, because that's the longer you have for your money to work for you. He's not incorrect when he says that there are people who have Roth IRAs for their kids, individual brokerage accounts for their kids, in addition to probably a 529 account. So the 529 is going to college, and whatever's in the individual or the Roth is just working for that child for when they come of age or whenever they are old enough to take it over. So the answer is today. The answer is now.
Excellent, brothers. So I'd have another question for you with regards to, we're talking about savings and investings. So, when we're talking about both of those areas, I think it's also important to focus on the factor of having debt as well. Many of our families, many of us have debt that we're working through or trying to pay off. But can you go into, the importance of just debt, understanding and knowing how to get through debt and understanding what methods you can take first to maybe wipe away your debt and then be able to, save and then do some investments? Because I know that's a struggle for some people sometimes. They want to be able to, knock out all their debt before they invest or save. So can you talk a little bit about that as well?
Yes, debt is a big factor. Debt stops us from reaching our goals and dreams. Debt stops us from saving. Debt stops us from doing a lot of things. As soon as we're in college, or as soon as we get out of college, matter of fact, while we're in college, we're getting credit cards. Credit cards is the worst kind of debt you can have. It's called revolving debt. There's called good debt and bad debt. Good debt is when you buy a car, when you buy a house, and it's fixed. Bad debt is revolving debt. You can never get out of the revolving debt. It's called the credit card trap. Once you get in that credit card trap, it's hard to get out. So my job is to show you how to get out of that credit card debt so you can start saving for your goals and dreams. And it's kind of hard to do that. So while you're in debt, there's such a thing, it's called the credit card trap, and you can get into that. But it's also called stacking. You can get out of debt by stacking. It's called stacking. So stacking shows you how to get out of debt. When you have 3 or 4 or 5 different things, you pay off, let's say, the one that has the least balance. So as you pay that off, then you take that amount and put it on your second bill, not worrying about that first bill. Don't take and spend it. Put it on your second bill. Once that second bill is paid off, take that money from the second bill and put on your third bill, and so forth. That's called stacking. In the meantime, while you're doing that, you need to take some of that money and put into I call it an emergency fund. Because when that debt is over, or when you're completely out of debt, a year or 2 years, that emergency will come up. So instead of getting you back into debt again because you're going to use that credit card, you want to go ahead and have that money saved someplace in an emergency fund. So that's how that should go. So we don't want to try to get you back in debt once you've paid off your debt. And that's what most people do. They take the extra money that they save and go get into debt, go buy something different. So we want to try to teach you to take that extra money and put on that second debt or that second bill so you can hurry up and get out of debt. And by doing this, you can get out of debt 5 and 10 years earlier. And I've shown people that. They don't believe it, but you can get out of debt 5 and 10 years earlier. And you need to have a budget. That's another thing we need to talk about, a budget. So you need a budget to show you how to budget your money.
Fully agree with the budget, and obviously good debt and bad debt. Like people, and especially people, African Americans, Black and brown people, we hear the word debt and it's just instantly negative in it. But there is good debt, and as long as it's not high interest debt or something where you literally can't afford to make the payments, it's not something that we rush people to go ahead and get rid of. There are circumstances in which we say, okay, we should probably get rid of that debt, versus, it can actually stand and work into the financial plan. So differentiating between good and bad debt, but can't stress enough having a budget, because when when you do have that credit card debt, that bad debt, and you're really just trying to get from under, it's going to take some sacrifice. And that budget is your game plan. The budget is going to be your game plan, and I guess it's like any other game plan, like whether it be sports, whether it be working out, whether it be eating healthy. It's only as strong as you are. It's only as strong as your discipline. So that is pretty cut and dry.
For both of you, as we talk about budget, we talk about debt. For the novice investor, or for the person who comes in who doesn't have a lot of income or a lot of assets to put towards investing, what would you recommend, or what would you say to them how to start looking at investing in their future, and to what types of policies they should probably look into in order to prepare them and prepare their family for the future?
When it comes to investing, a lot of people think you need a lot of money. You really don't. You can start investing with $50 a month. And my suggestion is take that $50 and put it into a mutual fund. A mutual fund is well diversified. In one company, you have like one mutual fund, you have like 100 different companies. So it's diversified. And you want to start early as you can, because like I said, you need time. You want to start with $50, but you want to end up putting more money towards it as you get those raises, put money towards it. But like I said, you don't need $1,000 or $500. You just need time and consistency. So you consistently put that $50 away, change it to $100 eventually, and just start increasing it as you get your raises. And that's the way to do it. You don't need a lot of money. You just need to start. And always say, when can I start? Start now. It's never too late.
So, OMARI, you go to the grocery store and you can pick out apples. Let's say apples. You can pick out apples, and you have to determine, you have to try and guess now, based on what you see, based on the information available to you, is this a good apple? Is it going to be sweet enough? Is it going to be the right consistency? Are there bruises on it that I can't really see right now? There's going to be all of these different factors that go into it. So you can pick out individual apples, or you can go to that bag of apples that you can guarantee is going to be pretty good quality, because someone much better than me or you has picked out these apples and put them in a bag. And if there's one that's not good, or that you know is going bad, they'll replace it with a better one. What would you do? Would you pick your own apples, or would you grab that bag of apples?
So I'll definitely pick the bag of apples.
I would tell people to get, like Brother Anderson said, get started with the bag of apples. You can buy fractional shares of mutual funds. So if you've only got $50, but the fund trades at 100, well, you'll get half a share of that mutual fund. And then as you continue to get raised, put money into it, your holding will expand accordingly. Also, your market exposure. This is not advice. It's not a recommendation. This is an example. Vanguard Total Stock Market. You invest into Vanguard Total Stock Market, that literally buys you every company that's publicly traded on the New York Stock Exchange, right? Versus putting that into a fractional share of, let's say, Apple, because people look for hot stocks. And that's not the strategy I recommend nor employ. So for the novice, just looking to get started, much like Brother Anderson said, mutual funds, but that's how I would break it down to them, because we all understand differently. We all learn differently.
So based upon what you just said, can you explain a little bit, or just, maybe from your own experience, why many of us still in the Black community are still hesitant to put their money in a mutual fund versus just a regular savings account?
I think we're hesitant because we were always taught to save our money. So our parents taught us that, our grandparents taught us that, save your money in the bank. So that's one reason why. And then it's the trust factor. We don't want to lose our money in a mutual fund. So what I try to show families is dollar cost averaging. So if you put your money in 401k plan or mutual fund, IRA, every month systematically you get the highs and lows of the market. So the market is high, you get less shares. When the market is low, you get more shares. So once you get those shares will never go away. The only thing that will go or fluctuate will be the market. The market goes up and down. So those shares may be worth $10 now, $20 now, $5 again. So it's a fluctuating market. But if you use dollar cost averaging to invest, don't worry about the stock market. Put it into a mutual fund, because mutual funds are part of stock. The way I plan mutual funds is the mall, Christiana Mall. If you have a store in the Christiana Mall that goes out of business, does the mall manager lose money? No. He just replaces that with another store. The same concept that Brother Brooks was talking about, the Apple, the same concept. So mutual funds are the same way. If that mall manager or that professional manager that manages that mutual fund has a bad company in there, he takes it out, replace it with another company. So the best way to do is mutual fund and diversification. And just think, we don't need a lot of money. All you need is $50 to start.
The fear of substantial loss and loss of control, a misunderstanding that is, I know I've seen it and heard it a lot within our community, but just in general, honestly, is that when you go see a financial advisor and you decide to utilize the services, people view that as, and people have asked, why should I give you my money? And I'm like, well, you're not giving me your money. You are in full control of your money. You're using me as a medium to make your money work for you. So just that, like the idea that the frame of mind to even ask that question lets me know that people feel like they're losing a sense of control. And it's a sense, so there's an ability to lose their money and they feel like it's out of their control. That's a recipe for disaster when you look at people trying to make a decision. Yeah, I think that's it. That's mainly, and then like Brother Anderson mentioned the trust factor. I think that goes into it because now they feel like they're conceding control with that opportunity for loss. And just to be perfectly candid here, I remember one time my grandfather told me that I'd rather keep my money in a mattress, or in the safe in the house, than to lose it at the hands of a white man at one of them big companies, verbatim. And I'm just like, wow, that's powerful, because maybe the older generations, or shoot, maybe African Americans, Black and brown people wouldn't feel that way if there were more of us working in these fields and we were that familiar face, like, oh, okay, my financial advisor is Black. It's an innate trust. I saw when I started at Morgan Stanley, I saw a young Chinese woman. She had the Chinese community in Wilmington in a chokehold because of familiarity. There was an innate trust in having someone that looked like you do business with you. And I just think that we don't have that, not at the scale of other races. So it makes us generally uncomfortable.
All right, brother. So another question that I have for you, with COVID-19 going on and the Omicron variant happening, many families, many families family makeup are changing basically throughout this time. What could you say? I mean, for example, you may have people who have, been divorced or remarried, loss of a family member, coming into, money, or even losing a job. But can you talk about the importance of monitoring and managing your financial portfolio throughout your lifetime?
Yes, it's good to manage your money throughout your lifetime, because in a lifetime, we probably work for 7 different companies. And we always have that 401k plan in that particular company. So when we leave that company, instead of rolling it over, we'll take it and spend it. Now, when you spend that money in your 401k plan, first of all, you're not 59.5. So that's going to be a tax penalty, because 10%. Second of all, now you just took your in retirement and blew it. So you're blowing your retirement. Like I said, every job you get into, you want to spend your retirement instead of saving it. So we teach you how to take that money out of your 401k plan. Instead of investing in your 401k plan, invest in mutual funds. Mutual funds are yours, and you control it. Your 401k plan, you don't control it because you get laid off and downsized, and then you don't know what to do with the money. So instead of spending it, teach you how to roll it over. Instead of doing your 401k plan, do that, because especially if they match you, you can't beat that. They match you 3%, 6%, you can't beat that. So go ahead and match it in your 401k plan, and once you get to that match, don't go over. You can do 15% in a 401k plan, but you want to do that. You want to go as far as the match and then take the rest of it and put it into a Roth IRA or traditional IRA. Because if you get a traditional IRA right now, it's tax season. So if you do a traditional IRA, you can actually deduct that from your taxes and get a lower rate of, get a lower tax on that. So instead of getting taxed at, let's say, $40,000, you're getting taxed at $35,000, because you can take that $5,000 and put into a traditional IRA and you can write it off.
I like what Brother Anderson said there. So I'm going to go another way. I would say that you need to make sure that all of your beneficiary election forms are up to date. With divorces and remarriages and all of that, the last thing you want is for your ex to be listed as a beneficiary should something happen to you. Here's something a lot of people don't know, and this is an estate planning piece, but it's simple. It's something that you can actually take action on by yourself today. It's called a simple call to HR or a login to your HR's website, however your company does it. But your beneficiary election forms actually supersede a will. So at the end of the day, no matter what you say in your will, if your beneficiary election form says one thing, that company that's in charge of whether it's the company that you work for or if it's independently managed, or like, for example, if you had, I work for an office that operates under Raymond James right now. So if you hold an IRA and your will says that your wife gets the entire IRA, but you have your kids on the beneficiary election form, the will holds no power to us. We have to disperse that money to your beneficiaries listed as we have them. Your kids will get that money. So I highly recommend that everybody update, especially with family dynamics changing, update those beneficiary election forms.
I want to switch gears and go back to budgeting. What advice would you give to our audience about how to put together a good budget?
A budget is very important. Why? Because it helps you to figure out where your money's going. Now, when you put a good budget together, you can't make it real strict. You have to put some fun into your budget. And that's why people don't keep their budget. If you say budget to a woman, she just says, oh, no, not a budget. But you need to have a budget. Put some fun into a budget. If you go out 5 times a week, cut it down to 2. If you go to the movies 5 or 6 times, cut it down to 2 or 3. You don't want to stop doing something. You want to keep doing something. So you don't want to stop doing everything. You want to keep doing something. And that's why a budget is so hard to keep. But if you make it fun and stick to it, you'll get out of debt much quicker.
I agree. I like I mentioned, if I'm talking to a novice and I just try to make it as relatable as possible. Think about a diet. All diets work if you work. So working some fun into it, absolutely. Absolutely. But staying accountable to what you put on paper, that's the biggest part. So what I say is, in addition to working some fun into the budget, you got to work some accountability into the budget. I've actually built a budget. So what I have here, I mean, you take whatever your annual salary is. I have some numbers in here just for easy math. Less the taxes, that decreases your taxable income. That's what Brother Anderson was referring to earlier when paying into your 401k and your benefits that decrease your taxable income. So not to bore you with the details, but like if you break your expenses down into identifiable like silos, let's call them, and you can this can be whatever you want it to be, whatever works for you. And I highly recommend, this is just a basis, but I highly recommend taking Brother Anderson's advice and working some fun into here. You can put entertainment. Food doesn't just mean going to the grocery store. Like if you want to work in a nice dinner once a week, that's fine. Like your budget is going to be whatever it's going to be. But when you get here, you cannot have more expenses than you have money coming in. It's just not going to work like that. So here you have a budget, you have it visually, you have it numerically. What does that look like, you know, from a pie chart standpoint? But the next page, the second tab, is where the accountability portion comes in. Because if it doesn't fit into one of the silos that you've identified, you got to call it what it is. It's stupid stuff. So this particular budget, and this is why I say you have to hold yourself accountable, because you got to enter in what you're spending. Like you have to put it in here yourself, and that output is going to show you exactly what I'm spending on stupid stuff. And this is what your actual expenses are. The front page is your projected. This is what your actual is. So when you go over, or even if you stay under, it's going to tell you, and it's going to move accordingly. It's going to show you how much you're over from on a dollar standpoint and a percent standpoint. This is the budget that I use for myself to hold myself accountable. And you know, when I have clients come through and they ask for help with budgeting, I start here. I said, look, I can fill it up for you. I can get it made up for you. But once it comes to you, you're gonna have to enter everything in and hold yourself accountable and act accordingly.
So, brothers, thank you very much for your answers. So I'm going to wrap this up with this last question, and that is, can you give us in our audience at least 2 takeaways from this evening's discussion, just 2 things that our audience can take with them to kind of better equip them and educate them moving forward on estate planning, investing, and savings?
Estate is nothing but what you own. Everything you own is your estate. Your car, your investments, your furniture, everything you own is estate. So how do you start that estate planning? Life insurance is the first part. You need life insurance, and the best life insurance out there right now, in my opinion, and what I recommend, is term life insurance. Why? Because you can get term life insurance for 30 years, 35 years level, which means it won't go up, and then you can go ahead and continue on with your life. That's covered, so you want to get life insurance. The second thing I recommend is your power of attorney. Your power of attorney is very important, so you need to talk to a lawyer and get a power of attorney, because what that does, in case something happens to you or your husband or wife, you want your wishes taken care of. You make sure you have your wishes taken care of, you need a power of attorney. In case you get disability, or in case you die, don't want no fussing, you want a will and a power of attorney. So make sure that you talk to a lawyer about a power of attorney, or doable power of attorney is very important. That lets the person that you trust take care of your legal and your financial part. Very important. So to get started, you need a will, and remember, when you invest, it's good to start early. All you need is $50 to start early, and that's all you need. Investments, don't save, invest. You don't need a lot of money, start with $50, and let's sit down and talk about a budget. That's it.
Update your beneficiary election forms, and don't hesitate to get started investing. You need help, ask for it. No one expects you to be master of this right away. But get started. Start investing right away. The answer is now. The answer is right now. When should I start investing? Now. And I would say don't fall into the trap of asking that question. What are some hot stocks? Because at the end of the day, that is that is a big money game. That is the rich man's game, trying to find hot stocks. Last point, a lot of people are kind of weirded out hearing this, but like, unless your time horizon is very long and you got some type of inside information, the stock market usually doesn't make you rich, keeps you wealthy. So remember that. Temper your expectations when you get into this, because when you temper your expectations, it won't feel like failure and you'll stick with it.
Brothers, I just want to thank you very much for, taking your time out to talk to us about this important matter, this important issue, within our community. And so with that, brothers, as we close, I just want to give you an opportunity to, provide either your social media information or your contact information, where our audience will be able to reach out to you and if they have any questions with regards to financial advising or investments, estate planning, etc.
You can get a hold of me on my cell phone, 302-521-7059. Leave a message and I will get back to you. My email address is taxservant@verizon.net. That's TAXSERVANT@verizon.net. Thank you.
Reach me via my phone, 443-690-8482. You can reach me via email at kdbrooksfinancial@outlook.com. I do not conduct business via social media. It's far too regulated. Just email me or call me. And I like to refer to myself as your personal CFO. We will handle every aspect of your financial life together.